Welcome into PurpleAquatics.com. I'm Skyler King. As always, you can email me, Skyler@PurpleAquatics.com. You can follow me on Twitter @SkylerPrep. Coming off the opening weekend of the girls' swim season, and a pretty decent invitational started up, which makes up for the fact that it appears nobody is swimming to meet this Saturday. I realize it's a holiday, but it's also the second week of the season, so that's a bit disappointing. It's basically impossible for me to make meets on weeknights at this point in my primary career, and so we'll be back at it a week from now. But we do have a few other results to look at that are interesting. Unfortunately, the most interesting meet of this week was Rosary Oswego duel. And for those of you who checked Meet Mobile, you know this as well. Basically, after the medley relay, which Becky Rentz didn't even swim, the results aren't posted. They all say pending results. Very unfortunate. Those are two teams that I'm very interested to see where they're at this point in the season. Kendall Pickering Invitational, and a lot of interesting things that I learned by not just watching but also talking to people in the stands. The number one thing that we learned for me is that the state championship is totally up for grabs, and the unfortunate thing here is that it's not because teams that I saw are so much better than I anticipated. It's because now St. Ignatius is just much worse. And it's because Piperwood Prince is apparently not coming out for the team this year. I double checked. She's not listed on their roster, on their webpage. This is obviously a girl that I picked to win state in the 500 free. And it really hurts Ignatius's chances, and really puts them on the bubble of even being a trophy team, because we're talking about right off the bat the individual points that she would have brought in the 20s, and then what she brings to the relays. So there's that, and then you have. Because there was a gap in my picks after Rosary, but the other thing that we learned was that New Trier has brought in even more firepower than originally thought. Maggie Papanikolaou is there. She really didn't look that great in terms of how she swam. She wasn't even on their A medley. She got handled by Escasa in terms of her own teammates in the 100 breaststroke. So hopefully she's okay and can kind of round into form as the season goes along. But the big news for New Trier is Tierney Lenahan. This is a freshman that moved in from the Northwest. I'm not exactly sure where. I just learned about her on Saturday. But thanks to our friends at USA Time Search, we see that it is basically a Carly Noveling replacement. Not quite as good at this stage, but 54 in the back, 50-point mid in the 100 free. And this quells all the relay concerns that I had about New Trier. Their medley I thought was already going to be good enough, but the freestyle that she brings really bolsters what they're going to have in those two relays, which, in my opinion, we're going to struggle to get top 6. But you add, this is a number 1 for virtually any team. 50-point flat out. That's going to be a huge boost to what they're doing. And obviously, Papanikolaou makes the breaststroke transition easy. Escasa was already going to be freed up to anchor the medley with Papanikolaou moving in. And now Lenahan, they could try to win the medley with her in the backstroke, or because they feel their medley is pretty strong regardless, she could be on both free relays and swim the 100 free, 100 back. And and she could win. She could win the 100 back for sure. As a freshman, this is looking like a weak state meet, and so it's such an incredible state meet to pick up a freshman like Tierney Lenihan, and it totally moved New Trier from just looking for a miracle type run at a trophy to a team that should once again be favored to get a trophy. New Trier won this meet, and looking for long-term implications, the thing that stood out to me right at the bat was seeing that Hinsdale Central won 2 diving. Hinsdale Central is not a team that historically picked up a few points in diving last year, but they've never really been able to count on big points in the last 20 years from diving on really either side, boys or girls. If they are able to pick up bigger diving points, Hinsdale Central could become the favorite to win the state championship. I think the biggest disadvantage that they have when we compared them to Ignatius to start the season was a lack of individual points. And it's because Kid Schneider's got to swim 3 relays most likely at state for Hinsdale Central's relays to do what they need him to. However, they can still afford to put her on 3 relays if they're going to get potential points out of 2 divers. An extra spot is opened up in the 500 for Burlington Bocas to potentially move up even further. And Caroline Kramer looked very good battling Escasa in the breaststroke, and she's potentially someone that could be a double top 6 in the IM in the breaststroke. And spots, from what I was just told this by a parent in the stands. I really don't have a way to substantiate this at this point, but I was told that Leah Hayes is not swimming high school this year, and there was multiple reasons why, but the long and the short is, if that is the case, then there's a few things. One, the IM and the 100 free got even weaker, which goes back to Lenihan. She's going to be in the running to win the 100 free, in addition to probably being the favorite in the backstroke at this point. But there's also the aspect of, does Deerfield feel like they want to move Park around to different events to better fit their lineup? Because if you're Annika Park now, you're not scared of anybody in the state, because Hayes was the one that was on and really above your level. Now nobody is. So that to me is very interesting. And the things it opens up for these top teams, again, the one rumor that I heard was that Jenna Kerr of Barrington might go the 50 free and the 500 free. However, if Hayes isn't around to go the 100 and Park isn't going to go the 100, because Park could also go the 500, then Kerr could also win the 100 free. So there's a lot of different iterations of what might go down in the aftermath of Hayes and Piperwood Prince both not being around for the state meet this year, and how it could impact just a little bit of everything. But to get back to the meet, 147.9, New Trier wins the medley. Hinsdale Central 48.9, but without Kid Schneider. So this was with Lauren Priest in the backstroke going 29.0, and at that point they were way behind New Trier, Lenihan 26.5. But they did outsplit New Trier in the breast and the fly, and then Escasa outsplit them in the freestyle. It'd really be interesting if this is potentially the relay that they try to pull Schneider off of. I would think the medley might be their best bet because of the fact that Kramer is one of the best breaststrokers in the state and the type of impact split that she can put up there. But they really are going to need to trust everyone else on that relay as well as going to show up and put up the split that they need them to, because the margin for error is going to be much less, obviously, without Schneider. And their relay dropping to the bottom makes Schneider swimming a second individual event not worth it. Because let's say, hypothetically, she wins a second event. She goes and wins the 100 free or the backstroke. In addition to the 50, that relay, if it drops to 7th and is now only worth 14 points, that's really the win of a second event individually is only going to be worth about 2 points extra. And when you know that Schneider on a relay is a guarantee of a top 2, top 3 finish, but you don't know for sure that putting her in that second individual is going to guarantee a win, that's a really hard move to make as a coach. And so the other girls on that team are going to have to step up and show Coach Barber that they have what it takes to free up Kit Schneider to swim a second individual. And if they can, that could also be the difference between a second consecutive runner-up finish and a state championship for the first time since the mid-90s for Hinsdale Central. 200 free, Schneider was swimming that 152.9. I think that's unlikely to be a state event for her. However, if she swims it, she should be top 6. I think basically any freestyle event, I can't imagine she swims the 500, and the backstroke, potentially the butterfly as well, would all be top 6 finishes for Kit Schneider as a second swim. Kramer 208.6 wins the IM. Again, Hinsdale's got to hope that that's a top 6 swim for Kramer, especially with the news that Hayes might not be around. Sadie Murphy, Oak Park, 209.8. Sadie Murphy had one of the better off seasons of anybody in the state, and I really expect her to have a great year for Oak Park. Enya Linson, St. Charles North, 211.0. And St. Charles North is a team that's looking to put the pieces together from a huge senior class that graduated for them, and it's going to be really interesting to see what they can find. Izzy Boo is a big time talent, but they're kind of, if they want to try to put together a dark horse trophy run, they're kind of in the same position that we talked about with Hinsdale, just with not as strong a supporting cast of sprinters, and they've got to make sure she can get a second event this year, even though she didn't score 2 last year, because she is their number 1 individual weapon. 50 free, Escasa 24.6 wins it. Olivia Saliga 24.8 for Hinsdale Central. Amelia Mariano and Eden Goach 24.9 each, LT and Naperville Central respectively. LT really impressed me, and that it was just not something I expected to see as many good sprinters as they had. Becky Phillips, we'll talk more about her later, did not swim individual races that really showed the flash that I saw from her in the relays, and she may not score big individual points, but what I did think we learned is that LT's relays are going to be heard from again, despite losing contributors to those relays to graduation, and Becky Phillips looks like she might be ready to be the ace anchor, in not just an ace for LT, but an ace to compete with other top swimmers around the state, as somebody that can beat other good relays for you. In the butterfly, Burlington Bocas 58.81 wins at Rinsdale Central. Lindsay Forbaugh from LT 59.01. Again, Bocas is another one of these girls that has to step up for Hinsdale. It's probably going to be the IM in the 500 again for her, but she's really a jack of all trades, as we see from the 58 and the fly. Again, I doubt she swims the fly at the end of the year, but it all depends on how the lineup's playing out, and maybe they decide that they just don't want to put two of their better kids in the same event, and Kramer's in the IM and Bocas is in the fly, and they just see how it plays out. Bocas didn't score the IM last year, so it's not that radical to pull her out as it would be if she had. 100 free, Schneider 52.1. Made it look relatively easy. Tess Stavropoulos, St. Charles North 52.68. That was a heck of a swim. And then Lenahan 52.77. Something strange happened with the seed time there. Lenahan was not even in the last heat. And it would have been really interesting to see them all kind of face off to see if she could have gone even faster or pushed Schneider to go even faster in that last heat. And then Maggie Adler, 53.4 for LT. Olivia Safrakova Nutrier, 53.59. And Sophia Hayes, Naperville Central, 53.8. Naperville Central is another school that's definitely looking for that relay depth because if they find a third and a fourth, I think they'll definitely be heard from in a big way, especially when it comes to those sprint free relays. 500 free, Sadie Murphy, we mentioned 5:11.1, beats Bocas 5:12.3. You don't know how things are going to play out, especially with people that might move into the 500 because it does look pretty weak. But Bocas and Murphy, they're going to see each other potentially again. The Oak Park and Hazelstone duel against each other. But those two might be going head to head at some point for top 6 at state, unless they're both clearly in. And so that's an important mental race for Murphy to win. And again, she went out and maintained the lead the whole way, and that's something. When you can set a pace and maintain it, that's the way to swim the 500 free. When you see the kids that have this really fast last 50, I think that's a very hard way to maximize your time in a 500 free. It looks good at the end of the race if you run somebody down, but when you don't run everybody down, it makes it look like you should have been closer the whole way and maybe not had to put on that big sprint, and you would have maximized your time even more because maybe you had even more left after that sprint, but you never got to use it because you held it back too much. So, as mentioned with LT and Becky Phillips, 137.88, that's a real time, especially in this state environment. Becky Phillips, 23.6 on the end. She was only 23.4 at state last year, and that's a big leap forward. 424s on this relay, so there's no weak link. This is going to be a very strong relay for LT, and they came from behind to do it. Hinsdale Central with Schneider going 23.5 in the 3-hole gets run down by LT. And speaking of teams that'll see each other again, also in the same conference, LT Hinsdale. That shapes up as potentially a more fun dual meet than you would have thought, considering how much better Hinsdale was last year. But LT is going to be feisty, and they're always fired up to swim that rivalry meet. New Cheer 139.0. Again, this is a relay that didn't have Tierney Lenahan on it, and so. Again, if they can find their mojo in the medley without her, I think both free relays can really use Lenahan when it comes to state meet time this year. Backstroke, Lenahan 56.4, easy win. This one was never in doubt. Megan Mead of New Trier was 58.8, was second. And again, Mead, Sofrakova, if these girls score for New Trier, that's going to make them even more of a threat to potentially repeat as state champions. I think, for the most part, it's going to come down to which one of these teams can free up the most individuals. And because of what St. Ignatius lost with Piperwood Prince, that might be stealing individual races from other girls, and it might become a Hinsdale Central New Trier showdown, because we already knew Ignatius's medley was kind of weak, and now that it was acceptable before because they looked like a slam dunk to win both free relays, and now they're not gonna be. If they're able to plug a hole with somebody in that free relay to make sure they're still a slam dunk, that might cost them an individual swim. And so it's going to be a really tough equation, or tougher, at least much tougher than it should have been for Coach Dave Stevens, and figuring out how to maximize this lineup without Piperwood Prince. The breaststroke was the best race of the day. Escasa 103.9, Kramer 104.3, Rosie Jania 106.4, Papa Nicholas 106.9. So that's 3 New Trier breaststrokers under 107. And then Claire Schiffer, Naperville Central 108.3, Imogen Duffy Bennett 108.5, and Becky Phillips 109.6. Again, I think Phillips, I want to see her swim the sprint freeze at this point, because that 23.6 lets me know that the 50 is probably her best race. St. Charles North 3:33.02. Again, St. Charles North's best swimmers are not sprinters. Stavropoulos is probably the closest, but Elizabeth Bowalek and Enya Linson are both 500 freestylers as their best event, if you ask me, on this relay. And then Izzy Boo, who's a distance stroker by trade, but can still put together some sprint freestyle. 52.7 lead off for Stavropoulos, 52.3 anchor for Boo. And I mean, they're going to be a threat to win this relay if Ignatius can't find a way to plug that hole that Piperwood Prince left. LT 3:34.5, again, Phillips 52.7 on the end of that one. Hinsdale Central 3:35.3, 51.3 out of Schneider, and New Trier 3:35.5 with Lenahan going 51.9 on the end. So we definitely saw some of the better relays in the state at this meet, going head-to-head. We'll see it more and more as the season goes on. I think New Trier Relays is going to be a fascinating meet, and quite frankly, this season is one that we've come into probably more than any season since I've been covering girls swimming, where I can't put my finger on who I would name as the state favorite at this point. Usually things get more clear as the season goes on, but through 1 week, it's gotten a lot less clear because of Piperwood Prince's absence and Ignatius really opening the door for a couple teams to bust it down and potentially take the state championship away. So, and again, unfortunately, no meet for me this week. I was browsing websites for about 30 minutes trying to find someone that had a meet on Saturday, and they do not. So we'll be back at it after Labor Day. Hope everyone enjoys their holiday weekend. And I'll obviously bring you feedback from and just my analysis of any of the meets that we have throughout the week next week before we go into the second group of invitationals. As always, you can email me, skyler@prepaquatics.com. You can follow me on Twitter @SkylerPrep, and we'll be back next week recapping those weekday meets as long as we can get the results. Again, if anyone knows where to get those Oswego Rosary results, I think that's the most interesting meet that we didn't see the results for. That would be, I'd be very interested to see those, and I will talk about those next week. See you next time here at prepaquatics.com.